we've been in court for a long time this afternoon. You could say a long time this week, actually. And you know how we normally treat politics really quite seriously on this show and on this channel. That's because politics is important. But politicians, well, that can be different. One organization is trying to bring some more satire, some more humor into our politics. It's called Politically Aware. Stephen Horn is the director at Politically Aware. Stephen, good afternoon to you. I mean, I think there can be no doubt about this. Politicians are funny. They do funny things. They often do, and they say silly things.
Yes, thanks so much for having us, Stephen. Indeed, politicians can say the damnedest things, and we're here to hold them to account and to point out those funny things, and hopefully to spread the awareness, as we like to say.
What are you trying to do in this election then? I mean, it's an election. It's a great time for politicians. I don't know about voters, but it's a great time. I mean, I think the election's a great time for comedians.
It really is. So we're quite excited, and we'll be keeping a close eye on them. We have some ideas up our sleeves. We're a small team of comics and journalists and content creators with a YouTube channel that seeks to essentially distill a signal from the noise and help especially young voters and young citizens get to understand their country better. We use humor almost as a way to draw people in, and yet we do research everything really carefully, and we fact check our work. So we're hoping to be providing an informational service first and foremost.
Does humor help? I mean, not so much pointing fun at politicians, although I think, frankly, every voter should be allowed to do that. But does it make things easier, you know, to use humor?
I think it does. I think that our country likes to laugh. I think that's why we produced Trevor Noah. And we have been through a lot of trauma as a nation, from COVID really destroying the economy and taking a lot of jobs away, to the rioting earlier this year. People are suffering, and humor is truly the best medicine, as they say, and I think that's the role we'd like to play in the country. But once again, we do feel that we are communicating important information through the vehicle of humor.
There's a really interesting relationship, I think, between political analysis and humor. I mean, a lot of humor is actually just more honest political analysis. I mean, would you agree with that?
I would agree. I think that's kind of what we do on the show. It's analysis in a way, and analysis. I grew up partly in France for a few years, where they have this interesting word called décryptage, which is almost like decoding. And so some of our inspiration for our show is it comes from that kind of European talk show format, where there's a lot of very quirky analysis. So unpacking the news in the evenings with live studio audiences is where we'd like to be one day. And we have done a few live studio specials. We did one for the 2019 elections with a great live audience at the University of Cape Town, as well as a climate change special. And so these are themes that we think are really important to young voters and young people. And that's kind of the format that we're hoping to keep pushing forward. It's analysis, and using humor to keep driving these conversations. So yes, I do think that some of the political analysis that we see published, given the politics in this country, it can literally just come across as comedy in itself.
I mean, there's also a sense of honesty, I think, you know, in humor that, you know, people like me, I mean, I'll be very honest with you, we have to be quite careful. I mean, you know, we have to sort of straddle the political divide. What someone who's poking fun at politicians can do can sometimes use words that are just cut to the chase a little bit more, that just cut down to the bone a bit, which perhaps, I think at times, maybe allows you, let me use that phrase, allows you to be really brutally honest in a way that, you know, doing a political interview, you actually can't really do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I think it's like our little superpower. I think with our latest video on the Uproot the DMRE campaign that we've done, I'm sure we'll get to chat about that a little bit more in a minute, but we did indeed, we possibly got under the minister's skin, because, well, we're not sure, but we were declared fake news on Twitter. So I think that at that point, if they don't realize it's satire and are debunking us as fake news, we may have struck a nerve. But we want to just keep holding power to account. And we're not out there to insult people, but we are using the vehicle of humor to draw a line from issue to issue to demonstrate how power works and to promote our democracy.
Why particularly the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy? What did they do to you, Stephen?
So, in a way, this is a little bit my one bias, is that I'm quite passionate about the climate crisis. So, I have a team of people, and we choose topics. Sometimes it depends on kind of what's the flavor of the month. Sometimes it's what we can manage to do. But climate's very close to my heart, and I feel it is very important because it's a little neglected in comparison to the threat it poses to our country by the mainstream media. So we are raising the alarm on that front, and the DMRE is actually the single biggest block to bringing South Africa's carbon footprint down in line with the Paris Agreement and other international views. These are not controversial. This is the International Energy Agency earlier this year saying we need to stop all future gas, oil, and coal exploration now. Like, we do not have a single second to waste. And yet the DMRE seems to be pursuing an agenda of if it's not more coal in the 2019 IRP, then it's delaying renewable energy approvals or trying to apparently build some kind of gas industry locally with the idea of having these car power ships. Which we did a previous episode on, showing that that's a terrible idea, both from a cost and a climate pollution perspective.
Greta Mantashe is the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources and Energy. You may not believe this, but he actually has quite a sense of humor. He used to start press conferences with a joke. He used to occasionally make jokes at this journalist from time to time, sometimes quite funny ones. He also would take a joke. I mean, I remember him agreeing to be interviewed by a very famous puppet. You'll know which puppet I refer to. And I've always thought it was his interview that he gave that allowed other politicians to be interviewed by the same puppet. And I think, frankly, Chester owes him something for it. Has the minister phoned you yet? Has he got in touch to tell you whether he thinks you're funny or not? I mean, you must prepare. He likes to phone people.
I'm only too happy to get a call from, as we call him, Uncle Gweezy on the show. Minister Mantashe, it would be great to chat. But I honestly, I respect our politicians as people, and we are here to just help the public understand their policy decisions through comedy. And if the decisions being made are completely contrary to the well-being of the country and to fighting the climate crisis, then we have to call them out on that. And that's all we're doing. And we certainly are just doing it with a laugh. And the fact that we've had a bit of a trolling Twitter spat, I hope that means we can still be friends, but we just want them to do the right thing.
If you follow each other on Twitter, you are friends. Stephen Horn, thanks very much indeed. Do appreciate the time. Of course, Director at Politically Aware. Interesting. Well, politics and humour, definitely a band name or three there, I suspect.